Right. It should be working. We should be back.
Right. Am I back now? Yeah?
Yeah.
Right. Hello, I think I'm back now. Can everyone tell me if you can hear me, so I know that it's all going live? Yeah?
Yep. It's definitely working everywhere.
Okay,
except
I'm
YouTube.
with you all. Apparently there's still problems on YouTube. I don't know why sometimes it decides to fall over.
Yeah.
But I'll continue with what I was
Very Hedgehog says
saying.
that was a bit matrixy.
Sorry. Right. We're going to start by talking about the armature. The armature is a skeletal system that helps structurally support the model. So if I was to just build it out of clay, because there's quite thin legs and we've got quite an upright standing creature, it's liable to fall apart in the oven if I didn't use florist wire to strengthen it up. Now this is 18 gauge wire. I remembered this time to look it up, and what I did, because I don't hold numbers in my head very well, I took a little bit of each of the wires that I've got, different sizes, and put a little tag on them with the gauge they are, and now I've got a bag for reference. With wire gauge, the smaller the number, the thicker it is, so you could probably go to 20, but after that it's not going to really be strong enough. So we need 2 bits of wire, one quite a bit longer than the other. What you do, so I'll draw the path on the model. Start with that arm, then when you get there you create a loop going around like that, up the back there. Let's bring it up closer. So arm there, the loop goes under there, sorry about that traffic, round the back, up for that head, and I had to use pliers to get all these shapes, down like this, then I'm going out for that arm, and again measure that your shoulders and arms are the same length, bring the wire back round, and then see that back loop going there? You're going to tuck the wire just down so that it starts to sit there. You should have quite a long bit of wire. At this point you're getting your second bit of wire in, and that loop you're going to tuck the wire, this new bit, let's see, can you see there's a little sharp bit tucked in just down there. You tuck it in through the loop, bring it up over the front, that's what that big bulge is, to secure it. Then the 2 bits of wire that you've now got, you're going to twist together to make that spine. Then when you're long enough, measure out your hips, so you're bringing one of the wires out this way, one of the wires out that way. Then we're doing the goat leg format, which is straight down, out backwards at a right angle, diagonally back forwards to almost in line, or the toes will almost be in line with the knee, so just slightly back on that diagonal, and then you bring the toes in. You can draw it out on paper and use that as a size guide. If you're going for human dimensions, you can get little mannequins and dolls that you can hold your wire up to get the right proportions. But because we're working on a creature that basically hasn't even been photographed if it's real, it gives us a lot of artistic license to actually make this look how we want. Now, before I get talking about clay, I'm going to go back to that design decision we had with to give it a towel and what kind of towel we're going to give it. Now, because the reports are saying it jumps like a kangaroo. That's how it moves. If you research kangaroos, they have that very stocky long tail, quite wide at the base, very muscular. And that's not just for balance. What they actually do is they get the tail, they push it against the tip against the ground and use that to help propel the jump. So if the tail wasn't able to go on the ground, get good purchase and take the pressure of propelling the animal forward, it would not be able to move around like it does. So in order for us to get our model to move like a kangaroo, we're going to need to give it a tail-like one, which isn't unprecedented. Some dinosaurs did have that kind of stocky tail. I mean, T-Rex is very much known for it. So that's why I'm going along that way. No one described it as moving like a rabbit. And the thing is, Mexico has quite a few rabbits. So if it had that kind of springed feet propulsion, they wouldn't have described it as a kangaroo, which is much more fluid and more of a rocking motion than a rabbit does. So that's where I'm going with all this.
Fairy Hedgehog says, will it need an armature in its tail?
It shouldn't need an armature in its tail because the wire will be holding the rest of the body weight. It shouldn't be massively structurally integral, and also because it's starting out down the bottom and is quite thick, it really should hold up well. If anything, it will help make the rest of the model more stable. So if I was making a bigger model, that's the other thing I would say, is I would pad out where the ribs are with tin foil and then wrap that tin foil in masking tape to give the clay a good surface to bond to without any jaggedy bits of foil sticking through. Because this is quite a small model, I'm not going to bother doing that. But you don't want to leave the centre of your clay not cured, and it won't bake if it's not at 110 for Thymo. These are the colour greens I have made up, and I have made a Skinner blend of a dark green and copper for the spikes. So I'll bring that up like that. Now, what you do for a Skinner blend, you put 2 triangles of clay together. This is polymer clay. I use Thymo Professional, and there's some Thymo Accent Gold in here as well. You're going to roll it out. Make sure that the 2 flat parts of the triangle are top to bottom. If you roll it that way, so the whole colour's fully across the side you're rolling, you won't get that fade. You need one solid colour one side, one solid colour the other side. And you roll it out and you can put it through a pasta machine like that. Let's get my tissue blade, because that is how you release from a glass counter, like this. Fold it over, make sure you're lining it up so you're still got a patch of green and a patch of your copper colour. You can change the shape by pushing it sideways if it's getting too wide. So long as it's even, you just keep doing that, and you're literally going to do this about 30 times. So it's kind of long, and it will look scruffy halfway through and streaky, and that is entirely normal.
Doesn't really look right till it
it really doesn't look like you're doing it right until you get there. But since I've done this on a heap of different videos, you can always go on my YouTube and see me doing this properly rather than very, very, very quickly. But see how it's starting to go too wide? Just push it down onto the glass counter to help grip it, and then when you push on the sides, it starts bringing it in so that you can control width. There we go. And you just keep going like that. The worst thing you can do is not control your lines so you get too much of one colour spreading. It's not terrible, it just means you don't end up with a full amount of the original colour. But can you see how patchy that is? And that's it going absolutely fine. But the real worst thing you can do is fold that way, in which case you'll end up just mixing the two colours together, and you'll end up with a copper green for the whole lot of clay, and it weren't worth the extra effort. So keep doing that lots and lots of times. I'm going to stop here because you don't want me to you don't want to watch me doing 30, and I've already got it made up. Once you've finished and you've got a nice fade along that line, fold it up so that it's thick enough for you to manage, and what you're going to do is change the shape of it. So you're going to start pushing on the sides, flip it over when you start to see that concertina shape happening, because you don't want that. Yeah, you want to squash it evenly. Then you're bringing out lengthways that way, pinching and pulling like so. Keep going. You're controlling the shape and the thickness of the clay and everything. It will move and do what you tell it to. See? So just because your fade is in the middle of a bit of clay, you can move it. Like you can see, that orange is now a stripe at the top.
Just so long as it's even.
So long as you do it evenly, it's fine. Now this is going to be very, very patchy because I only done it about 3 times rather than lots. But even with that small amount, you still get that nice orange to green, well, copper to green fade going on all the way through. So that's what you're looking at. And because I wanted it very spiky, I made sure that I didn't line up the folds all the time. But you can't really control that unless you start to make a concertina of orange and green, sort of layering it up and then shrink it down, which is just too much. Just fold it up a bit messy and you get a fine outcome. Yeah? Right. So, main clay colours. This is a real mix. This is leaf green, sap green if you're using Fimo Soft, sap green they call tropical green. It's got black in it and a fair old whack of gold because I want that kind of gold shimmer. And all of these clays have a pinch of gold in it. This one is leaf green, a lot more gold and white. That is that with some more white in it. That is that with some more white in it. Then this is that with quite a bit of, well, not quite a bit, a big pinch of brown and a pinch of black. That is that with a pinch of brown in it. So we've got a few different greens to work with because I want to put some different shading on the skin, but this is going to be our main base colour. Now I always start with abdomens because I think you get a far more stable core working that way. And I'm not taking a huge amount, just a bit, and you've got to make sure with polymer clay you've softened it up and kneaded it so that it's nice and easy to work with. Now I'm flattening this out and I'm trying to stay in the height between the pelvis and those arms. Now, one of the mistakes I used to make when I first started was I'd make the join line under the armpit. So I'd stick the back under one armpit and then bring it round and join there, and then you've got that arm in the way when you're trying to smooth out that join line. Put it either at the front or at the back. That's the first thing, because then you've got a clear open space. Ideally at the back, because then you really haven't even got arms at all to deal with. So that way round. Second thing you need to bear in mind is that you're not going to trap air when you put this in place. So you're going to go to the tip of your clay like that. Keep an eye that you've got your arm out the way. Push your clay into place onto that spine like that, and that bit extra I'm just wrapping up over the legs. Yeah, then you can start to roll it. And again, we're starting from the middle and working out so that if there's any air, it's got an escape route. That makes sense? And you can eyeball how much you want to use on how thick you want your body to be. And I reckon that is going to be a bit too much. So I'm going to pull some of that clay off. Like this. Just start to push it into a shape that I want. Smooth out that join line there. See how easy it is to smooth out the join line when you actually got access to it. Yeah? Now we can start to get that back shape into place. Not so worried about the shoulders, but what I will do is I'm going to pinch some of that clay up and just wrap it over the top of the shoulders like that and smooth out that join line. And what that does is it anchors that top bit and stops it sliding. But you've got to make sure you've got decently soft clay. If you find that you come to your polymer clay, especially Fimo, and it's too crumbly, it's not cured, it's not unsavable. What you need to do is add some liquid Fimo and just keep kneading it in and it will soften up. So I want to give this a bit more chest because it looks like it's going to be quite a strong little thing. So what I'm doing is some of this clay down the bottom, I'm just using my thumb and pushing it up. See what I mean? And now we've got a decent chest shape to it. Like that. Now, let's bring a thinner waistline. And once I've got the front how I want, I'm going to then start looking at the back after that. So let's bring in some of my ball tools and some of my nice little crafting tools. What I want first is this one. Something with a triangular tip so I can just start to put those ribs in. Like so. See? Nice little dent there. Smooth out that bottom bit. And then we can come in with a ball tool and bring that round. Like that. And I'm only going to bring it round to the side. just so I can start to see what I want. It's easier to do holding it upside down. And if you see, I'm not using the ball, I'm using the metal edge just to come round like that. Now, I know these ribs look a bit gaunt at the moment. Don't worry, we are going to be working on these. Just tap them in a bit like that. Right, now let's come round and look at the back. So I want a bit of a curve on it because he's slightly arched over like so. And I'm figuring out where I'm going to put pelvis and butt and hips and all that. So that's about there. That's kind of the shape that I want. I'm going to need to add scapula in, but first off I'm going to do the spine. With the spine, you will see that on animals that are on all four, they tend to have a raised spine bump, but those that are standing upright have an indentation, if that makes sense. So get over the top of it and really trace in a very thin spine line like so. You really don't want anything too big. Little cracked line there. Let me get a smaller ball tool in. There we go. If it is too harsh a line, you can just rub it out a little with your finger. Just come back in. Got a smaller indent there. The more you make this line obvious, the more thin your animal's gonna look.
Do you also make it more prominent so that when you rub it down a bit,
yeah,
you compensate as well?
You can make it a little more prominent so when you rub out, it just goes down to how you want, but just fiddle with it. There we go, gentle petting. That's how I like to do my back. There we go. See? So we've got a back in there now. So now we can see where those ribs are going to be coming round to. Kind of like that. It's also got a semicircle sort of shape going towards the back, so you end up with that. It looks, you know, the semicircle at the front of your ribs, you're kind of mirroring it on the back but slightly less prominent. So there we go, that's the start of it. And when we put in the scapula, which is the teardrop shaped bone that sits there, that all your arm tendons go through, we're going to add that on afterwards.
Back pecs.
So just starting a bit of a back pec, yeah. And we've got far more of a front one. Now, because this is a reptile, I'm not putting a belly button in, but normally I would go down and put a belly button in. But what I am going to do is trace out some muscles. So you come down with your ball tool again, probably a thinner one than that. Let's see, have I got a thinner one? Now, instead of going in deep and dragging, you'll get sort of an unclean surface. Let me show you. If I put it in and do that, can you see the edge is scruffy? Ragged, that's the word I was looking for. With your ball tools, go in, try and roll. It's better to go shallow, like that, and then go back over it, then go back over it, and you can take it deeper, but can you see, same hole, much cleaner effect. So you've got to watch it with your ball tools. They're wonderful things, but if you use them wrong, you end up with a really scruffy end result that you're then going in and trying to fix up. So we've got what I use as a really good guide for mussels. Ken doll. Went to the charity shop. I've got a Cindy doll and a Ken doll. Now, I'm not giving him all of that madness that's going on. He's not going to be that ripped. But I am going to give him a little 6-pack. So, we start, that's the chest. You get the little one across like that. Slight semicircle shape. And it meets but has a little point like that, almost like a little seagull, how you draw them as a kid. That goes round to the side. Then these, you get a line down the middle and you start to divide that into 6. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then your little point one there. So now I've got some dividing lines. I can come and draw the mussels in. You can also, if you really want to be making it very ripped, you can add a dot of clay on. I might do that actually for the top one, just to show you how to do that. I'm just bringing these, let's bring it up, coming round, doing some nice little rounding shape and rounding off those corners. They look like little pillows. See? Now, the hardest bit is copying it on the other side. So, I'm going to put that middle one in first, then bring this up and round like that. And then mirroring it down like that. Now, if we're talking mammals, that's where the belly button would be. But since this is a muscled humanoid reptile, I don't feel confident putting that in. So, there we are. And then what you do is you start to bring out some lines round the side. Let's see. Couple of muscle lines going in like so. So that's the start. Now I want to build up those 2 stomach muscles. So we're going to get 2 tiny balls like so, and we want to make sure that they're pretty even with each other. Let's have a look. You need a bit more. There we go. Right. That should do it. And we're going to tap it so that it's slightly flat. You get the thickness that you want and then you come around the edge, and I like to just pinch the edge so that they're flat, so it's easier to smooth out that join line. See? So you've got back up, there we go. Whoop. Looks kind of like a lentil, that sort of shape. You can add a ball, but it's hard to drag that edge down flat without putting a lot of pressure on and smushing the work you've already done. So just bring the sides out, and it doesn't matter whether it's a perfect shape because you're blending it all in anyway. We're going to stick that right in the middle of that bump. Just put them both on, and then I'll hold it up again. Whoop, back here you. There we are. Right. You see? Looks a bit weird right now, but we haven't smoothed it all in yet. You're taking your ball tool and you're just going to blend that edge in. So that you can't see it no more.
So the original markings were
Yeah.
locations.
They're,
This is to build it up.
yeah. The original ones were your guides. This just makes it look a bit more buff. Oops, thank you for zooming in there, that's useful. Right, so let's tap that down into the shape that I want. So you can see the difference between the one that I blended in and the one that I've just yet to do. Yeah? Might even need a little bit more, just like that. There we go. Right. So same on the other side. So it's not much of an extra bump. It just looks a bit more like three-dimensional and less like you just got a flat bit of clay and drawn muscle markings in. The other thing is, I don't mind it. I don't matter if the dot that I'm adding is the wrong shape. See how that's too small for the space? Because what you do, so long as there's enough clay, you can then move it around and get it to lay. Sorry, there we go. Just tap on it and push it so that it sits in the shape that you want it to.
If I zoom out, then it's much easier if you just stay centered. It's just harder for them to see the detail.
Sorry. There we go. I'm just bringing that. There we are. That looks better.
You do a good job bringing it up to the camera to show us when you've done bits though, so I'm not sure zoom is that important.
Yeah, I'm just making sure everything's back in properly, that I haven't smudged anything out whilst adding those two bumps. And you can do that on all bits of the six pack if you really want to make it look massively ripped, but I don't. I think that looks alright to me. What I might do though is add a bit more on the chest, just to make that look a little bit more big. So it's the same thing we did on the two little bumps of the six pack, but we're going to do that on the pectorials. Just move that out of the way. So roughly the same size, because your eyes notices when your symmetry is not right. Get a decent shape in there, and make sure when you put it down you haven't dropped it so hard that you've smudged up your back. And when you're holding it with arms and legs that you haven't worked on yet already. So again, you're not smudging up all the work you just did. So
You'll probably bake the body before you work
before I do the arms and the legs, I will be baking it to hold it all in. Yep. And also I'm going to have it baked before I add any of the scale dots. If I was coming in and actually marking them out of this clay, then I'd do that before baking. Can you see how I brought this up into the shape I want for the pectoral? And then put that on. You've got to make sure you get them level like that. There we go. Now I can smooth that in. Right. What I'm doing when you see me hold like this, I'm resting the arms on my hand. I've not got, can you see down the gap? The back is not being pushed into my hand. So you're saving the work you've done. And I go in down the bottom and get rid of that join line there. You can buy ball tools on eBay and Amazon and Etsy, and they're really cheap, and they go right down from a very, very, very tiny sort of head of a pin sized ball all the way up to really quite big ones, sort of size of crackerjack marbles. And yeah, they're under a £5. I think that's what I paid for mine. It means that you can come in with the right size ball for the job so that you can smooth it out.
Hedgehog said lost you for a moment. I don't know if
oh, did my, was that my internet or your internet? I never know with this. At the moment it's all very, very difficult, but we didn't see a drop frame then, but that's not to say it didn't happen, so I'm sorry guys if I dropped out. I was just saying, ball tools, you can get them all over the place very cheaply, and they really help. So I'm just getting that top edge, folding it over and dragging it down. So let's come up here. Is it too shady? You can see that's the line that I'm trying to do. So I get the top bit, bring it down over and smooth like that. See? And then we can bring that shape back in. I know I've got lines across there, but we will be able to smooth that out very simply, see? The bit that's important now is just joining on those pectoral muscles all the way around. Up the top, I like to use the side of my ball tool just to start to roll it into the shape that I want. So it's not so rounded, it's more into the chest. Like so. And it looks like a lot of fiddling, but it's worth it in the end. It really does make a difference. Let's get in here with something very, very thin. If you don't take the time to join these lines and smooth them out, it looks really dodgy. And that's not to say I didn't do it, because if you look at a lot of my early work, I was not smoothing out joins at least till the second year of claying. But I got there, and I think it makes a huge difference. Right, let's get these smoothed out so they don't look as dodgy as they do currently. There we go. And I'm really not doing very, very heavy touches here. One of the things that I had to learn early on is how to not be heavy handed with my clay. before I got clay in, I wouldn't have thought I was a heavy-handed person, but the amount of times I had to re-go over work I'd already done because I smudged it up and didn't make it sit right. Right, what I've done is I've smoothed down that join line, and now I'm pushing it back together again, so you still not got this big gap between his muscles, but it doesn't look like they're not part of the chest. See? Right, there we go. That's the front already done. And again, nipples is a very mammal thing, so I'm inclined to leave them out on this guy and just make it about the muscles rather than anything particularly mammalian. Yeah? Now, I am not bothered so much about all this down here because I'm going to add a leg in. What I am going to do is just make sure that I'm not leaving it so there's too much sticking out to cover. Does that make sense? Because you don't want to be shaving down baked clay. You can do it, but I find I'm more likely to slip and cut myself when I start doing that. So take some time to make sure your legs, the start of your legs, are not too thick. And you want them thinner than you're actually going to go for as your end result. You can even start to bring it down so that you've got a base to put the clay for your legs over, or you can just break off any excess. Either way is fine. That's better. Right. See? And I'm probably going to take that off because it's sitting loose. There we are. Make sure it's tight to your wire. It's easy to get these baggy air bubbles in this clay. But I got the start of his butt in there, but most important is I've got his waistline, the thickness that I want. So there are a lot of back muscles on a ripped guy, but we're not putting all of them in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some of them. So that big one there, whoops, goes down like that. I put that in the wrong line, so I'm just smoothing it out. See, like that, and that comes up as a kind of semicircle going into the spine like that, and you can join that into the top edge of that top six pack. So again, from there, that's the ribs in, you bring that down this way, whoop, then up like that. There we go. I've already got a few crease lines in there, which is fine. So that's in quite well. And the more sorry, my throat was going dry there. The more you define it, the more muscly your guy is. And I find the sides of these ball tools really help do this. But you can use a cocktail stick or a knitting needle or anything that's got a flat surface I do find metal is the best material for these tools, for working this clay rather. Sorry, I'm distracted by what I'm doing, aren't I? Yeah, so I like that so far. Now I'm going to bring that spine, I'm going to hold the arms here, and I'm going to bring that down and around so I can just start to bring in a butt like that. It's easier to do when you join it into the spine. Let's move my ken out of the way. Whoop. Just grabbing clay, pinching it and shaping it to where I want it to go. See? Now I want that line there defined a little more than what I've got, so that's the tool I'm looking for, needle tool, because that's got a thinner edge. And again, I'm not using a tip and dragging it, because that's the same thing will happen. See, that's how you do it with your with it on its side and dragging, as opposed to that. Yeah, so on its side and drag it, don't tip and down, you get this real scruffy edge. I'm sure there's science behind it, but I have no idea what it is. Oops, bring that back. So I'm making that line, but I know that is too wide apart, so I'm gonna then push it back together so it looks more like an actual butt. Now you end up with a kind of triangle there, and again I find using a triangle tool helps bring that into definition. Yeah, just slightly encouraging the edge of that triangle up and around like so. So we've got a back going on now and a front. So we've got to work out what we're doing with the front, and I think I'm just going to leave it smooth and not really get involved with any sort of genitalia going on there, because again it's not something that's been reported, and most pictures just literally Ken doll triangle it.
Gloss over, yeah.
Total gloss over, which we'd be able to do when we add the legs really. He's got a very pointy backside. Let's round that out rather than, there we go. It's good, you can, if you don't like something you can change it around. So this is where we're at. I reckon I'm going to leave him at this, do a bake, and then we can come in and start dealing with arms and legs and heads, okay? So, are you all good if I stop for the night here? Yeah? And hopefully I'll see you all next Wednesday, 5 PM British Summer Time. I'm not sure of the American times. I do put them up, but my mind don't hold that information. It's actually cut and paste number 3 for me. But I'm pretty pleased with how this lizard's going. He's definitely looking somewhere human, somewhere reptilian. And that will be even more so when I put his tail coming in from that triangle going down, and the reason why I haven't built that in right now is because I think it will change the shape of its butt and it will get in the way when I'm trying to sculpt the legs. So I'll get those legs all done, and I'll probably put that towel in at the very last point. And if you're worried that you can't smooth raw clay into baked clay, you totally can. It's fine. I'll show you. We will get there. I hope you all have a really good week, and I look forward to seeing you in 7 days. Like, follow, share, all the good stuff that really, really helps me out. And I'll see you soon. Bye!